Welcome to another episode of random thoughts and ideas, concepts that come to mind. Now, today we have a very interesting concept, of course, and that is the relationship between emotions and logic. Now, my interpretation of this is emotions and feelings are the reason we make certain decisions, but logic is the tool to help us understand them, if that makes any sense. Now, some questions that I kind of asked myself when thinking about this is it ever better to think logically over emotionally, or does it depend? And I would say, generally speaking, it depends. Of course, with you want to be emotionally driven and you want to make most decisions are going to be made based on how you feel emotionally or how you feel about certain ideas or doing certain things in given situations, but you still want to act logically in those situations when it comes to the goals you have, at least. And you want to make logical decisions that are going to make sense for you to make the decision you want to based upon your feelings, if that makes any sense. Now, I'd say the main balance between these two ideas is finding the not using too much of one or another, or like purely being logical driven based upon what other people think or what you think the facts think, or like this is this way and I have to follow this exact path to get to where I want, kind of thing. You want to be emotionally driven and make decisions based upon what you want to do, because that's how everyone acts, right? That makes sense. And but you just want to find the most logical way there, if that makes any sense. And the only problem that I found myself when thinking about this sort of thing and being faced with many decisions in life is that, do you need to really make the best decision in every situation? And the easy answer to that is no. I did not realize this until much later on in life, that I don't have to make the most optimal decision. And I still struggle with this idea from time to time. Like, I need to my brain is always like, I need to be adapting to every single situation. Every time somebody talks to me or something, I need to make the optimal decision. Whether it's like simple daily things like going out, getting groceries, that sort of thing, like I need to make the optimal path constantly. And my brain is just like, I need to do that. And now I'm like, I have to think logically, but at the same time, like I also have to incorporate what I actually want to do and whether I want to do 17 million different errands this one day because it logically makes sense. It's my one day off, or if I just sprinkle it into a couple other days, even if I do work that day, so that I am also kind of enjoying and going. It's less logic based and it's more how I'm feeling, I guess. But how I kind of interpret this idea is, the way you interpret the idea of emotions versus logic, generally speaking, is a path that I found myself on a multitude of occasions, starting off primarily logically, like I mentioned before, and now finding myself much more driven by emotions rather than the optimal route. Like I previously stated, I've been known in the past and even still now to have the urge to want to find the most optimal path, whether it's just as simple tasks like running errands, or if it's one of the biggest decisions of my life where it's like choosing a job or career path, that sort of thing, or whether I'm going to college, that sort of thing. And this has led to a lot of disappointment in my life because, realistically speaking, making the most optimal decision in every situation in your life is just not probable for most people. And even though I still think sometimes that I can do it and that I'm different from everybody else and that I can make the best decisions regardless of how most people view, like, people have a capacity and not how your feelings aren't always going to match with logic, if that makes any sense. Like, you're going to have to choose a less optimal route sometimes because you feel going a certain way, or your goals are slightly aligned differently, so that it doesn't necessarily call for the most logical route. It just calls for the one you enjoy the most, rather than just straight to your destination sort of thing. It's more of a scenic route or stopping to smell the roses kind of thing. But after realizing this idea, I found that most of my decisions and the decisions people make in my life are purely based on their emotions, generally speaking. And some may choose certain paths, like go to school, because they feel as though it's based on the people around them are telling them that sort of thing, or their parents went to school, so that's what they're doing. They're just following in their footsteps, or the environment they grow up in, if that's what their family's doing, and if it's what is expected of them, kind of thing. Because a lot of society and parents and that sort of thing expect a lot from their children and the people around them to grow up at least in a similar way to that they did, which I don't think is necessarily the most optimal route. I'll probably get into that on another video. But at the end of the day, you want to be making decisions in your life not based upon what other people think. You can let those ideas in and consider them, of course, because how else you're supposed to gain information and make more optimal decisions. But you should, at the end of the day, be making decisions based purely upon what you want to do and your emotions. And some people choose these paths because that's the environment, and then some people ignore their family's wishes and they go the opposite and they don't follow the path that has been laid out to them so meticulously by their parents. They would rather just throw that their family's wishes and desires to the wayside and find a completely new path that entices them much more. And although it sounds bad when I say it like that, it's that should be the more optimal path. If your feelings align with your parents or the people around you and that's what you want to do, absolutely go do that. Go to college, get the job you want, whatever. But if it's something that you truly do not want to do and you're hating yourself or you're even slightly regretting the idea of just following what people ahead of you have already done, then don't do it. Do something completely different. Go, even if you don't know what you want to do and you're just doing something to be different, just do it. Because then no matter what, even if you mess up or whatever, you'll find you'll gain new information from that experience, and maybe you'll find your path eventually. Maybe you'll take 10 more mistakes after that, but eventually you'll get there. And I feel as though, obviously, journey versus destination kind of thing, but I think it's best to choose your own path, regardless of if it aligns with people. You know what I mean? And that being said, in both scenarios, the decisions being made are based on emotionally driven responses to the given situation. Now, if you're going with your parents, if you want to do exactly what they did and that's what you want to do, then do it. But if you don't want to do that, then don't. It's as simple as that. Now, the part where logic does come in is when it comes to understanding the route that can be taken, which is logically based on what someone wants to do. For example, if someone truly wants to go to college for business management so that they may one day run their own McDonald's, then it makes sense logically for them to get that degree and then start working at McDonald's to not only get the degree so they can get that position, but also be working at a McDonald's so that they can get to their goal. Like that logically makes sense to get to where they feel as though they want to be. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that logic isn't just a tool to help understand the path we want to take in our lives. Our decisions may not make sense to others or society's views, but it shouldn't. It should be how you feel. And at the end of the day, it's what makes sense for someone to do based on how they feel they want to do. Now, as far as usability of this concept, I would say I feel as though this concept is useful for those who may not think their current decisions make sense logically. But you have to ask yourself if one, you're doing what you feel is right for you, and two, are the decisions you're making getting you closer to the goals that you want to do, or are they getting you further away? Now, when it comes to that idea, I would say that you just want to understand the paths you're taking. I feel as though understanding is better than the knowledge better than knowledge itself, because if you don't understand knowledge, it's pointless. Does that make any sense? Like, you if you don't understand the path you are taking, then how do you know it's the path you want? So if you feel you want to make a certain path or make a certain decision or go down a certain path, I would say that it helps logically to understand how you're going to get there. And obviously, you don't want to plan too much into it because then you may lose sight of the actual goal that you're aiming for, but you still want to understand the path it takes to get there. And your feelings may be the gas in the car, but the logic is the steering wheel, if that makes any sense, at least. But that being said, the couple key takeaways of this idea is use the idea of logic as a way to understand your own feelings and how you can make what you feel you want to do make sense. Don't make decisions based on how others feel or society feels. Make decisions based on what you want to do. Now, some are much more emotionally driven and some are much more logically driven, like myself. But you must find your balance, or at least try to, and understand that the other may not come to you as easily, even if you're more logically spoken person, or you base all decisions you make based mostly on facts. You still want to bring in some more emotion because you don't want to get stuck doing something that you're just doing because it makes sense to do based on how other people thinks. You want to make a logical decision based on how you feel and what you actually want to do. But that being said, if you are too emotionally driven, then you could end up in any sort of spot. It may not be where your goal and is at the end of the day. Like you kind of need logic and logical thinking to guide you to those goals and basically create the steps for you to get to said goals that are being driven by your feelings and emotions. With that, on a scale of 1 to 10, with being I would never use this and 10 be used daily, how would I rate this kind of concept? And honestly, this concept is such a vast thing, and I'm only going to be covering about 10-15 minutes of it, and I'll probably go more into it in the future, but I would say it's a 10 out of 10 in that respect, in the respect of how much people can use this idea and how much people should be thinking about it, because this concept helps you understand how the decisions you make and the people around you, and can help you understand the decisions other people make to help you make your own decisions. And it's kind of a guide for your emotions, because everyone should be emotionally driven to do what they want to do, but you need that guide of logical thinking to get you to where you want to be. At least that's what I think. Now, the relationship between emotions and logic is one that I have found conflicting in my life on a great number of occasions, and many of you have probably as well. But just because they tend to cause friction between each other doesn't mean you can't use them together to help understand yourself and the decisions you make. Now, let me ask you this. What do you think guides the decisions you make? Is it your emotions? Is it because something seems logical? Or is it based on what someone else thinks? Again, thank you for watching this convoluted rant of mine, I suppose. Let me know if you found any of this info interesting, and if not, I hope it was at least a little bit entertaining, and I hope to see you next time.